You're not stuck, you're in between, and that can feel unsettling, but it isn't wrong. If life has felt strange lately, like nothing quite fits the way it used to, but you also don't know what comes next, you're not imagining it, and you're not falling apart. You're in what I call the in between. You know, a few years ago, my spiritual practice was very strong. I was doing my energy work, I was doing Tai Chi and some Qigong, and I was meditating consistently. I wasn't lost and I wasn't disconnected, but something just quietly shifted one day. And nothing broke. It wasn't dramatic or obvious. It's simply that the things that used to light me up felt flat. Conversations I used to enjoy felt exhausting, and the life I had built suddenly felt too small. I remember sitting on the balcony at the lake one afternoon, not upset or emotional in any way, and I was just still. And all of a sudden, this thought popped into my head. It said, I can't go back to who I was, but I have no idea who I am becoming. And even though nothing around me was actually unsafe in that moment, that thought itself was terrifying because I wasn't just changing quietly inside. I was the only one close to me experiencing this part of the awakening at this intensity. And no one around me could relate to that or reflect it back. And that made it feel incredibly lonely. Because if you can't go back and you don't know how to move forward, and no one around you is walking the same terrain, where does that leave you? In this video, I want to talk to you about that space, the one that I call in between. Not how to get out of it and not how to rush through it, but how to stay in it with stability without falling apart and without losing trust in yourself. Because here is what I learned. The in-between isn't something to fix. It's something to learn to live in. Before we go any further, I want to say this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. I didn't do this incorrectly and neither did you. You didn't go too far. You're not regressing. What's happening is that something real has shifted within you. And your whole system, your body, your nervous system, your sense of self is adjusting. And that adjustment doesn't feel peaceful or elevated. It feels destabilizing at times. And that's exactly what it would feel like to be in between who you were and who you are becoming. And you are allowed to be there. So, what is the in-between? It's the space after something opens in you, but before you know what to do with it. It's when the old motivation doesn't work anymore, but new motivations haven't formed yet. When the old identity doesn't fit, but the new one isn't clear. When you can't go back to who you were, but you don't know how to move forward. Here's what I believe is actually happening. When awareness shifts, when something real opens, your nervous system has to recalibrate. Your body has to learn a new baseline. Your energy has to reorganize. Your sense of what matters has to reset. And that calibration doesn't happen overnight. It happens in this quiet, uncomfortable, uncertain space that most people never talk about because it doesn't look impressive. It doesn't sound like progress. It just feels like nothing or everything and nothing at the same time. So when I was in the in-between, there were 3 truths that helped me stay in that in-between space. Not move through it faster, just to stay there for as long as was necessary, and stay there without panicking, without forcing clarity, without making myself wrong for being there. Now, these are my truths. They're not prescriptions you have to follow. I'm sharing them only in the hope that they help you stay in that in-between space for as long as you need to be there. So, my first truth is the in-between feels like limbo because you're reorganizing. Your mind wants to understand what's happening. That makes sense. But this phase doesn't live in understanding, it lives in the body. Your nervous system is learning a new normal. Your energy is resetting. Your internal reference points are shifting. And until that settles, everything feels uncertain. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're literally becoming oriented to a different way of being. You can't think your way through this. You have to let your system catch up, and that takes time. My second truth was that you don't need to know what this means. One of the most exhausting parts of the in-between is the pressure to figure it out. What does this mean? What am I supposed to do with this? Where is this going? But here's what I learned. Not everything needs to be interpreted. Sometimes awareness opens, and then your job isn't to analyze it. Your job is to just be with it, to let it exist without forcing meaning onto it. Some things settle on their own when you stop trying to make them make sense. And here's what most teachings won't tell you. That not knowing is not a gap in your practice. It is the practice itself. And then I had my third truth. Staying is the work. This is the part no one prepares you for. The in-between asks you to do something most spiritual teachings don't emphasize. Stay. Not transcend, not heal, not level up. Just stay. In the discomfort. Stay in the uncertainty. Stay in the not knowing of it all. Without forcing movement, without manufacturing clarity, without trying to become something you're not ready to become yet. And I know that doesn't sound like progress, but it is. Because learning to stay, learning to be here without falling apart, that's integration. That's embodiment. That's the work no one talks about, but everyone has to go through. So before we go any further, I want to invite you into a moment of noticing. Let's pause together for just a moment. Take a breath with me. And just notice without judgment, without trying to fix anything. Where are you right now? Not where you think you should be. Not where you were. Not where you're trying to get to. Just where you are. Feel your body. Feel the chair supporting you, the ground beneath your feet. You're here in this moment, in this in-between space, and nothing about that is wrong. You don't need clarity right now. You don't need to know what comes next. You just need to be here, in the in-between. And you already are. If you are in the in-between right now, here's what I invite you to know. You don't have to move faster. You don't have to figure it out today. And you don't have to force clarity or manufacture momentum. You're allowed to just be here for as long as it takes. Your body already knows how to stay. It's your mind that's panicking. So when you feel the pressure to move, to know, to become, come back to your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath moving. Feel the chair holding you. That's staying, that's presence, and that is enough. You're not falling behind. You're not doing this wrong. You're exactly where you need to be. Before we close, I want to leave you with this. The in-between isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be. But it's also not something to escape. It's something to learn to live in. Because on the other side of learning to stay, without forcing, without panicking, without making yourself wrong, is a steadiness, and you can't get there any other way. So take your time here. There's no rush. And if, as you're listening, you notice that your system wants a little more support than this moment alone can offer, if your body feels like it needs to help settling, grounding, or remembering that it is safe to be in the in-between, I created something specifically for that. It's called the stabilization session. It's a 45 to 75 minute audio experience designed to help your nervous system soften, orient, and remember that it's safe to be exactly where you are. You can find the link in the description and use it whenever you need support staying grounded while your system continues to settle. Until then, remember, you're not stuck, you're in between. And that's exactly where someone would be when something real is integrating. Staying is the work. You're doing it right. And tomorrow morning, if uncertainty returns, place your hand on your chest, feel your breath, and trust you are exactly where you need to be. Until we meet again, I'll say bye-bye for now and sending you much love.